You ready?
I'm ready.
What are you ready for? Are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's go, baby. Rapid fire. I'm ready. I'm ready. Did my homework.
Let's do this.
I did it while the teacher was talking, but I did my homework.
By the way, I want to ask you before we start
Yeah.
officially on this first question. Are we grumpy old men?
I know I am. So
Like, did you see that comment on the video that you looked at?
No, I didn't.
Someone said we were a couple of grumpy old men in rapid fire, and I had to think back to what we were talking about. I felt like,
really,
there was, maybe we disagreed a little bit more.
I did.
Maybe we disagreed a little bit, but I felt like we had some, good fun back and forth. I didn't feel like we came off as grumpy.
What's funny was I thought that was the best rapid fire we've had in a really long time. I really enjoyed last night's rapid fire. So I guess
you told me multiple times that you like the questions, you like the topics.
I was on, man. Like I felt like we were dialed in for rapid fire last night. So
I thought
that makes me grumpy. Then I'll take it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I guess we'll just have to wear that. That's right.
Us.
Okay, so we're not going to see the ideal Notre Dame offensive line this spring because of injuries and some limited availability. But what is your ideal Irish offensive line for the 2025 football season?
Pretty sure this is not going to happen because I feel like Anthony Knapp is going to slide in somewhere. I just think that he is I don't want to say teacher's pet because that makes it sound like he's not a good player. He's a good player. He's a good player. He's not a tackle, in my opinion. So we'll just see. But anyway, my ideal starting offensive line, here we go. Left tackle, Emil Wagner.
Ooh, okay.
Left guard, Charles Jagasaw.
Wow, okay.
Center, Ashton Craig.
Okay.
Right guard, Billy Schrouth. Right tackle, Gerby Lambert.
Man, you are like way different than what I've got.
Yes.
I've got Jagasaw at left tackle.
Okay.
Jagasaw or Lambert. I am curious to see kind of how that turns out. I have Schrouth at left guard because I felt like he played better on the left side than the right side when he came back last year. Craig at center. Guard is such a toss-up for me. Like, I think it's going to be like, if Lambert ends up being the left tackle, there's no way that Jagasaw is being left off the line.
No chance.
So does he end up, and obviously Wagner is not a guard, so then Jagasaw probably ends up at right guard, and I would keep Wagner at left tackle. But like, here's the great X factor, I think, is what you talked about. Does Anthony Knapp end up being in the mix someplace? It feels like my gut says he will. And so I actually have Lambert and Knapp as my potential right guards, like one of those two.
Lambert, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I feel like if Jagasaw is going to be at left tackle, which is a very real possibility, then I think Anthony Knapp ends up at right guard.
Okay. If Jagasaw is the left tackle is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that.
Yep. That's how I see that going down.
So then you see the right tackle coming down to Lambert and Wagner.
Correct.
Essentially.
Right. And I just don't see how Wagner isn't a starter. He was the most consistent starter that they had all last year. I just I don't see how they keep him off. You know what I mean?
I don't either.
I tried to do who are my top 5 guys and then where am I going to put them? Like, that's how I did it. And I think Gerby Lambert's in the top 5. And so he's a tackle to me. So I got to put him at tackle. You know what I mean? So it was just kind of how the dominoes fell, which is how I did it. Because I think Wagner and Lambert are both in the top 5. I think they're both tackles. So that slides Jagasaw inside.
Yeah, and we saw how big Jagasaw is and the fact that he can move some people. And I think you're right. I think that's probably the only way that Knapp doesn't end up out there somehow is if you've got Lambert and Wagner on whichever sides as the tackle, because Jagasaw he's arguably their best guy. So it's a matter of where is he going? Is he better as a tackle? And, is he better than both Lambert and Wagner as a tackle, and if not, he ends up being one of the guards. You've got him at left guard. I've got him at right guard in that situation.
Yeah, Shrouth, Jagasaw, you can put him at either guard. It doesn't matter to me. And look, Anthony Knapp would be my sixth man, but he's not a tackle. He's not.
I agree.
A tackle.
He's, probably try to pack on an extra, 15, 20 pounds of some muscle / midsection girth. I mean, he's got nice long arms and all that kind of stuff, but he just needs to get stronger at the point of attack. And it feels like, like as long as Craig is healthy, he should be the center, but maybe Anthony Knapp kind of ends up in that spot in a year or so.
Yeah, and I would be fine with that. Like, I think he would be the next man in at any of the interior lineman spots for me. And I just think Ashton Craig, if he's healthy, is the best center on the team. Yeah. You got to have him in the lineup. You know what I mean? So, like, just unfortunately, Knapp is the odd man out for me. Now, like I said, he's the sixth man. He's the next man in, but he's the odd man out with these five that I have. So, I mean, again, I think Anthony Knapp ends up starting because I think that he is a favorite of Joe Rudolph. And okay, that is what it is. He played admirably during the season. I just hope he's not starting at tackle. That's all. I hope he's not starting at tackle.
Right. A lot of people talking about Knapp. Joshua says he played out of position as a freshman, filling in for a tough position. He did play great. I mean, like grading on the curve, he did. He played, really well given the circumstances.
On the curve,
he had to do.
Yeah. And even Joshua is saying that he's not a tackle. So that means he has to play in the interior. So, Joshua, who is getting benched for Anthony Knapp? Right.
Like this year, it doesn't feel like it's going to happen.
And that's a legitimate question. Like
unless Jagasaw and Wagner are the tackles and they don't think Lambert is ready to play any of those positions.
Then he could slide in to guard, and that would be fine. That would be fine. You're benching Shrouth? Yeah, I'll see that. You lost me now, dude. Like, Shrouth's the best guard they've got.
This conversation is over, Joshua. You're risking getting banned from this chat for lack of...
Billy Shrouth is the best guard on the team, dude.
For lack of mental capacities.
I was open to the conversation. But, like, if you'd have said to me that Jagasaw is at tackle and Gerby Lambert is on the bench, then I would put Knapp in opposite Billy Shrouth. Okay? But... yeah, you got me on that one. Sorry, man. Like,
we can't go down that road, my friend. I'm sorry.
I can't.
Can't happen.
But if Wagner and Lambert are at tackle, then I think Knapp could be the odd man out because you're not going to bench Jagasaw. You're not going to bench Billy Shrouth. You got to have them at guard. Maybe there's a competition at center and Craig isn't healthy enough to fight him off. Okay, you could even convince me of that. So, but Craig... If they're both healthy, Ashton Craig is a better center than Anthony Knapp.
I mean, like thinking about Jagasaw and Shrouth and Craig, just those three physical specimens on the line, like that is a wall right there, in itself, just to start with.
100%. To be honest with you, what I'm looking for on the first day, where is Anthony Knapp? Where is he hanging out with the tackles? Is he hanging out with the interior? Like, where
he could be injured to start.
Right, I know, but is he out there? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's going to be the biggest question mark for me. Where is he? Because then the dominoes fall at that point. Dominoes fall.
Yes. Yeah, I think we're all pretty much in agreement, most of us anyway, that Anthony Knapp is an interior offensive lineman. It's and he would end up backing up, like both center and the guard spots.
Right, exactly. He'd be the first one in at any one of those three spots.
Yeah.
I would have no problem with that.
Exactly.
He played last year because of injury. Like that's my thing. He played last year because of injury. He's not an anointed starter moving forward. Right. That's how I feel. Because he wouldn't have started last year. People would not be on the Anthony Knapp train if Charles Jagasaw hadn't gotten hurt. You know what I mean? So I just don't feel like he's the anointed starter moving forward.
No anointing lotion for him. You buy or sell this as a make or break spring for defensive lineman Brennan Vernon.
Yeah, probably. He needs to find his niche, and he needs to find it quickly. He's a big, strong guy. We've been talking about him since he stepped foot on campus, as far as how big he is and all of that. I'm not exactly sure about how things have gone for him, but at this point, he needs to find his niche, and he needs to find it quickly if he wants to play for Notre Dame. And there's opportunities, right? There's opportunities across the board on the defensive line, but I do think this is a make or break spring/fall for Brennan Vernon.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little bit like of a tweener kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like not, maybe a little too big and not twitchy enough, to be a true defensive end. And I think he's a little over 260 pounds right now. So he still needs to, bulk up to be an interior defensive lineman. But the guy obviously came in with a lot of stars, and he's a guy that we get asked about all the time. He's only played in 4 games in his first 2 years. And obviously, because of the injury to Riley Mills, and there were some opportunities last year, and he just has not been able to kind of carve his path yet. And so going into year 3, again, like with the shape of what that room looks like right now, if he's not going to make a move now, when is he ever going to make a move? Is what it feels like to me.
Completely agree. Because he's going to get passed up. That's going to be the problem. You know
right.
what I mean?
Exactly. Speaking of make or break, do you buy or sell next season as make or break for Micah Shrewsberry?
To a degree, it is, because it's year 3. And there needs to be some improvement from year 2 for sure. Like if I'm not saying he needs to go to a Final Four, he needs to get crazy.
Right.
But he needs to show improvement. If the needle stays the same, then I think the seat is extremely hot at that point.
If they have a 3rd straight losing season,
then,
that is break to me.
Yeah, I agree. If you're going to have to be able to tangibly show me that things are headed in the right direction.
Correct.
It just can't be another wait till next year. It can't be. It can't be.
Yeah, that's it. Because it's year 3, your system, your mentality, your style of play, all these things should be in place by year 3. Because now he will finally have, he's got a heralded recruiting class,
right,
that he's got coming in. And what else he's going to have, as we've talked about, is up in the air because of transfer portal and NIL and everything else. There's always going to be someone trying to lure your best players away and into the transfer portal. So they're going to have to fight to try to keep those guys. But I think I've said, like, my standard for next year, just like with Sean Stifler and the baseball team this year, at a minimum, you need to be a bubble NCAA tournament team at a minimum. Like, you need to be at least in the conversation for being a part of the tournament, depending on how things break for you at the end of the season. And if you're able to make some of your own breaks, honestly, because they haven't, that's one thing that you haven't seen too much of, maybe other than that 4 overtime game, is they haven't made enough of their own breaks, Shrewsbury's teams so far. But again, I'll kind of get into some more thoughts on that, because I told you about the YouTube comment because we talked about him yesterday. And the comment was from Laura Kelly saying Notre Dame basketball is awful. Whose fault is it that the roster is so pathetic? My guess is it's the coach's fault. After last night's game at his press conference, he admitted he didn't stress defense last year, only offense, and the offense looks like this. He said the offense is decent. What games is he watching? Also, Notre Dame basketball is totally irrelevant nationally. After last night's game, they were begging reporters to ask Coach Shrewsberry a question, and then they finally asked him about ACC status. Apparently, no reporters interested in locker room interviews post-game either. This is all on the $7 million coach. So, some very pointed comments there. I guess my first question would be, like, to anyone, you're perfectly, like, you can have this kind of opinion, I guess, if you want. But I guess my question is, what did you think when Mike Brey was here? Were you happy with the 13 NCAA tournament appearances that Mike Brey had, or did you complain all the time because it wasn't good enough and he wasn't winning NCAA tournament games? Like, what is your, like, do you actually have a consistent standard, or does your bar move all the time? Now, I'll fully, like, acknowledge that at the end, like, Brey, was kind of phoning it in with some different things. And like, that's part of why what Micah Shrewsberry inherited, there was not much there. But, like, go to the other side of Mike Brey. Before Brey got here, they had gone a decade without being to the NCAA tournament. And then he gets them to the tournament right away, and they make the tournament 13 times, and obviously a couple of Elite Eight runs and an ACC championship, So the roster that Shrewsberry took over, I mean, it was a mess. It's not his fault that J.J. Starling transferred after Brey left. The only guys he had left on the roster, I believe, were Matt Zona, J.R. Konechny, and Tony Sanders, if I'm not mistaken. Was there one other beyond that? I mean, like, that was, by and large, that was it. And then Shrewsberry was scrambling to put anything together to try to be able to field a team that first year. Brey won 11 games in his last year, 3-17 in the ACC. And then from there, the roster shrunk to those three guys after they went 3-17 in the ACC. So, like, at least Shrewsberry has won 7 and 8 games in the ACC.
Well, that's why last year was kind of a revelation, right? Like, everybody was excited last year because he doubled up in the wins. I mean,
so
given the situation,
I mean, he was scrambling that first year just to have a roster and have something, some guys to put out there on the court, and then they went out, they brought some guys in the portal, they worked to different extents this year. But, again, like, he's actually got a top 5 recruiting class coming in next year. So, like, if I'm going to base anything, and this goes to the point of my question about next year being make or break, I mean, and you can go too far in the expectations that you have on an incoming recruiting class. But I mean, like, it really feels like, with what we've seen these first couple of years, you can write so much off to an extent because of what he inherited and where the program was. But now year 3, I think that it's like, you got to be moving someplace. You got to be showing it's going in the right direction. And the Harrelson kid is supposed to be someone who can come in and go right away, So
we'll see what happens on that front. Can I push back on some of the things that this person said? Holy crap! First of all,
I wanted to go on my spiel first, so
I love it.
I'll let you go on yours.
Love your spiel. Your spiel is always fantastic. Like, number one, I don't think reporters were allowed in the locker room. That's number one. So, like, why are we complaining about that? Number two, how many reporters?
I can't say for sure because I wasn't at the men's tournament, but at the women's tournament, ACC tournament, they did have 30-minute open locker room after the press conference.
But who wants to go into the locker room after they just got beat by 20 points? Like,
Tom Noy.
What are you going to get out of it?
Tom Noy would be over there in the corner, like, stirring it up.
And my other thing was, reporters this, reporters that. Who was there? Like, Tom, and probably that's about it, would be my guess. So there wasn't a whole. I can't imagine there was a whole lot of reporters following Notre Dame
who really wanted to hang out after that season and that game in the locker room.
And Micah Shrewsberry isn't making $7 million a year, so he's making like $4 million now. $4 million is still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong.
There's still a pretty sizable difference between 4 and 7.
And that's my point. Like, he's not making 7. I know that for a fact. So I don't know. Like, should he be getting, like, he made some mistakes. Like, Micah Shrewsberry made some mistakes. You should have never told the media, we didn't work on defense. All we worked on was offense. Like, probably not the right comment to make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're really painting yourself into a corner when you go down that road. Now, last year, when he said all we did was work on defense, I get it, man. Because if you want to hang in games, play good defense.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. And then just kind of create some offense. Like, I had no problem with that comment. But that was kind of your calling card in year 1, was playing good defense. don't abandon it at the bus stop and just focus on offense.
It feels odd that you would go so all or nothing from one season to the next. That is odd.
So I didn't like when he said that in the preseason. He said that early, and I was like, ooh, that's not great, because Notre Dame struggled to score this year. And so if you were focusing so much on offense, that's worrisome, to be honest. I mean, it just is. That's all I got. So
I know.
They need to go back to the drawing board on how they're approaching the season, and defense needs to be part of it. So he's got some work to do. There's no doubt about it. Nobody's happy with the way the season went, including Micah Shrewsberry. And so him and his staff have a lot of work to do. First, they got to maintain their roster. Then they got to get ready for next year, and defense needs to be a big part of it.
Yeah. Like I kind of thought with him coming in the door that defense was always going to be sort of the foundation of his program. So
because I can root for a team that plays D.
That. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's an easy team to root for.
Because you're investing energy and pride in playing the defense. 100%. Get the stance, baby. Go.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. Next year it would be nice to see a combination of both, I think.
A combination would be great.
Offensive and defensive.
Don't forget about the D. Don't forget about the defense, man.
Right. Okay, so Jay Bilas says he would like to see more conference games in late November and early December, with more of the premier conference matchups in January and February to drive more interest in men's college basketball, with college football now going so deep into January. Do you buy or sell this idea moving the needle?
It's a huge sell for me, because, Jay, you got to understand your place in the world.
I think we're thinking the same thing on this. Yeah.
You will always lose to football. So let's not reinvent the wheel. You got to maintain the status quo during football season. And once football's over, everybody comes over to basketball and everybody gets excited. That's your lane, man. Like, that's your lane. It stinks for college football or college basketball fans that football now goes a little bit longer. I get it. You're going to lose this battle, dude. So just stay in your lane, enjoy February and, March, because that's where you are. Let's just don't mess with it. Don't mess with it.
And look at this week, conference tournaments here. So it is cool, conference tournament, like a lot of people, the fact that it is March, like to a lot of people, the basketball season just started. So, even under Jay Bilas's plan, you still got the month of February to contend with. You're never going to go up against football. And I think a growing majority of people really only care about college basketball once March rolls around and it's time to fill out a bracket, to be quite honest. Like, I just, trying to counterpunch against, would it be cool to see some of those conference games in November and December? I guess so. But, at the same time, like my team, Kansas, won some premier, non-conference games in November and December, and, against Duke and North Carolina and Michigan State. And like, what good did that do them in February? You know what I mean? Like, it's been an up and down year for them. So football is just always going to win. That's just what it comes down to. And you own the month of March, so be happy with owning the month of March, because that's ultimately your lot in life when it comes to basketball. Fill in the blank. Bilas says he was working as a TV intern back when he was in college at Duke in the 1980s, and he was tasked with picking up Digger Phelps at the airport in Minneapolis. It's blank that Bilas says Phelps yelled at him when he got lost driving Phelps back to the hotel.
You saved this one just for me, didn't you?
I did, because you were taking your Digger shots, and I found this. He was on the SI Media podcast. I should credit where this story came from. He was on the SI Media podcast. It's actually been a week or two ago, but so
it's on brand. It's 100% on brand. That's my fill in the blank. It's on
Especially,
brand.
could you imagine younger Digger? Like when he was still had a lot,
probably
even more
started throwing his green carnation at him in the front. How can you possibly get lost? This
was obviously 1980s, so it was like
Yes.
pre-GPS,
right?
And, any of that kind of stuff. It's like Bilas has got his map out. And he's
I could just see cantankerous Digger in the back. Don't you know who I am? Why is this taking so long? If we were in South Bend, everybody would know who I am.
The very first, it was my first year, like my first year here at Notre Dame, like working in radio and covering Notre Dame, was Mike Bray's first season.
Oh, okay.
As well. And we did his first coach's show at Parisi's restaurant, nice. Right across, from Notre Dame. So we were at Parisi's very first show. Bray and I was the, the host of the show, Bray and, some players would come in. Digger walks in the door and he's like, because this is the prime of his, I'm on ESPN and all this
colored highlighters.
Yeah. And he's like trying to get on the, get on the show. He's like, don't you want an ESPN analyst on the show?
No.
And I'm looking at Bray and Bray is like, nope.
No,
we're not doing that.
But that's him in a nutshell too. It's like, look at me. I'm Digger Phelps. Look at me.
That's exactly right. God. He didn't come in with any highlighters, though.
Well, that's a shame. He must have left his tie in the car, too, to match it.
Yep. So there has been a declining emphasis on starting pitching in Major League Baseball for several years. Veteran starter Max Scherzer has an idea of how to fix it. His concept is what he calls a qualified starter. To become a qualified starter, a pitcher would need to pitch either 6 innings in his start, throw 100 pitches in that game, or give up 4 more runs in the game before leaving. If the starter doesn't hit one of those 3 markers, his team would lose the designated hitter for the rest of the game. Do you buy or sell Scherzer's qualified starter idea?
It's outside the box. I will give him credit for that. Like he I don't know if he had a couple of pops or whatever, and he's thinking about how to fix the game and sitting around the campfire.
He's old school. I think he's like 40, and I think he's Aaron Rodgers' age by this point.
There you go. So you know what? Like I give him credit for trying to come up with something. No, I do not buy it. I sell this one. I don't like, if you don't. Basically, what he is saying is if the starting pitcher doesn't give up 4 or more runs, they're going to lose the DH.
You're okay if you get shelled.
That makes no sense to me.
Now, you don't have to do all 3. So basically,
right.
You either have to pitch 6 innings, throw 100 pitches,
right,
or if you give up 4 more runs.
That's a weird 3 things, I will say. Like, you would love for your pitcher to go 6 innings. What if he throws out his arm and gets hurt? What if he gets hit in the face with a line drive, and he doesn't hit any of these 3 markers? So now we not only do we just lose our starting pitcher to the injury list, but we also lose the DH.
That's a good point. Like what? Leaving a game for injury should also be part of that.
Right.
Obviously.
So, I mean, I don't like the penalizing of removing a player because of that. I don't know. I don't like it.
Do you know how you incentivize starting pitching? By actually emphasizing starting pitching within your organization. That's literally all it takes. Yeah. All the organization has to do is say, we don't care about the analytics that say, like 3rd time through the order, it's time to get like any of that kind of stuff. And we got to get into the bullpen earlier. Like all the organization has to do is say, you're a starting pitcher. You need to plan on being out there for, like at least 7 innings.
Mm-hmm.
To begin, that needs to be your literally all you've got to do is make it an emphasis within your organization, and that's all it takes. Like it doesn't need to be a rule, I don't think, to make this happen. So again, like I kind of like where his head's at. You're looking at a way to incentivize it, but like it used to be when you looked at, when you looked at the matchup of the day. When you looked at who the starting pitchers were, you you could look at that game and you go, okay, I'm picking the Cubs because they got Greg Maddux starting today, or like the Braves because they got John Smoltz or whoever it happened to be. But like now it really doesn't matter because those guys are out of there within 5 innings most of the time. It's like, so more than, almost half of your game is going to be determined by guys coming out of the bullpen, and you have no idea who those guys are going to be. But again, that's on the organization because all the analytics has dictated that. He's not going to be able to roll back the analytics, and that's what it comes down to. But the organization has to make it an emphasis if he wants it to change.
Yep. I agree. Completely agree.
So the Baltimore Orioles are bringing back an all orange uniform that they're going to wear. Now it's going to be, it's not going to be their everyday uniform, but it's going to be like they're going to wear it from time to time this season. These are from the early 1970s. What do you think of these all orange monochromes the Orioles are going to wear?
I liked them. I looked them up. I wanted to see what they look like. It's orange with black writing, and then they've got the black hat with the orange bill, I believe. It's 2 thumbs up for me, man. I liked them. I liked them a lot.
You are so odd. You and I are so different when it comes to baseball uniforms.
Liked it.
I thought you were like Mr. Traditionalist. Like,
I am, but I like them as an alternate.
This looks like a bunch of pumpkins running around on the field out there. It is just so not a good look. I do not like this at all. Maybe young people will like it. I don't know.
So you're calling me young. I love it.
I am out on this. I am so out. Stymie says they're sharp. Michael says they're awesome. TK says orange is a popular color right now. Okay, maybe I'm the odd one on this.
You're just angry.
I guess so.
I liked them. I think they're cool.
Old man.
I think they're cool.
All right.
I don't know.
All right.
I liked them.
Teach his own.
Yeah.
I am out. Like Stymie says, as long as they leave the stupid Pittsburgh Painters hats in mothballs, hated those. I actually thought those were pretty cool, especially at the time. And that's one of the. I like the.
Ask
the
your next question.
I like the old school Pirates. Okay.
Ask it.
Who has the best retro uniforms in baseball?
It's the Pirates with the Painters hats. I'm sorry. I'm right there.
The Stargell stars on top.
I
kind of those hats.
Like they're like round and like I'm sorry. I thought those were funny. Or not funny, but I just look, they're freaking Pirates. Like it makes sense. I'm in. Like those are good throwbacks. I'm in.
Those are not my favorites, but they are definitely probably top 3 at least. I like the 2 that I like above them are the powder blues that both the Atlanta Braves and the Philadelphia Phillies wear.
Powder blues were very popular.
They were
across baseball.
The Royals wore them like in the 70s. They were huge still.
Yes,
and that's
lots of powder blue.
The Texas Rangers wore them back then. What I didn't like about the Royals powder blues is they had the pullover like V-neck jersey instead of the button down. Now they went to a button down, I think, by the time the 80s rolled around, because it's like, okay, we got to leave the 70s behind, and so they went to it for a little while.
Yeah,
but I never liked them because they were of the V-neck that they started off with. The Atlanta Braves powder blues from the 70s with it's like the hat and the helmet that's got the white on the front and the blue on the back.
I know what you're talking about.
It's got the small A instead of the capital A that they went to. Like those, and the Phillies powder blues as well. I will say this. I do feel like looking at those uniforms, I feel like they've been flared up a little bit. Like the blue is a little sharper, and just the uniforms are cut a lot nicer than the originals from the 1970s. They look a lot better now as the retros than they did back then.
Because they still want the players to feel like they normally feel, regardless of how it looks. You know what I mean? The Cardinals had the blues. The Cubs had the blues.
Now the Cubs were pinstripe powder blues, weren't they? Did they have just pure powder blue?
Yeah, I think they were pinstripes. The Cubs have a nice powder blue hat right now with a navy bill, and then just the cubby head, the front cubby head. They had them. They actually had them at the job fair at the high school I work at. South Bend Cubs were there, and they had a Chicago Cubs hat that they were like raffling off.
Okay,
it was sweet looking. I almost wanted to just take it. Like it was sweet looking.
Nice.
So I will say that. But one of the ones I don't like though, because it's been overdone, is the Astros throwback. Because I believe it was Nike or somebody else that kind of brought that
With
back, and like
everybody,
every
like all the
freaking
high schools
school
started
has
wearing
them
them.
now. Yeah, it's just no hard pass.
And that's funny because I didn't like them back then. But again, like when the Astros brought them back as a throwback look, again, because of the advancements, I think, in uniform design and everything, they look, because like they were very tight on some of those big players back then.
Yeah.
And now they've got like a baggier kind of cut, so they're not hugging all the parts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I get that too.
So Tommy says, pant legs up or down for baseball? It's up all the way for me. Yep. I'm a high socks guy.
I'm an absolute high socks guy. I wore, not only am I a high socks guy, but I wore high socks as the head coach. Okay. So
yep, me
I'm
too.
a high sock guy all the way. All the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm like back in my little league days, I think we were all high sock stirrup guys.
Well, yeah, because that's how yes, because
did you guys ever have the stirrups that were like the actual stirrup was like a foot long, and it really wasn't even a sock. It was just like you put on your white tube socks underneath, and then it was just basically like a strip, like ours were blue, like our team's uniforms were blue. So it was like a foot long blue strip. And then, you just like,
just like a little fabric at the top. And then it was just straight. Yes. That's what we had.
Okay.
Those are the stirrups that we had.
Okay.
100%.
Yep.
And you always made fun of the kid who didn't wear the tube socks. He wore the short socks, and you could see like the skin
you could see his
the leg. Yeah. Gotta make fun of that kid.
That's right.
But I'm not a stirrup guy, because there are stirrup guys still out there too. I am a solid color sock all the way up, calves out, calfzilla.
That's right.
Pants to the knees. Let's go. Like, that's where I'm at. I bought my entire team the short pants. So some guys didn't want to wear them. But
I was going to say, did they like it?
Some did. Some did.
A lot of the kids these days like the pants, like the bell bottoms. Basically.
I know. But we had them, man. We had them, and I loved them. Loved them.
I forgot there's a couple questions that were sitting in the back. Joseph was asking if Notre Dame goes out at the Sweet 16. He's talking about women's basketball. That would be the fourth straight time? ? Yes, it would. It would be their fourth straight year if they get to the Sweet 16 and then lose that game. Stymie, do you intentionally try to make stripes in your yard when you mow? That's the gateway question to grumpy old man society.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not making a design, but after I cut my grass, I always go and take a shower, and I look out my back window, because my bathroom is on the back end of the house. I look out the window, look at my backyard, and I admire the stripes.
Yes.
Every time.
I do the diagonal. I like to do the diagonal cut across the yard, because it's more noticeable.
One time I go this way, then I go this way.
Yeah. Like 1 week I'll diagonal. Yeah. I'll switch it up.
Yes.
Crisscross.
You don't want ruts. You don't need roots in your grass from your lawnmower.
That's right. All right. Well, that is going to do it for tonight. A lot of good we in, we out questions.
Love it.
I thought that, I don't know. I guess we'll be told if we're grumpy or not.
I mean, we are. It's okay.
When rapid fire is over. So
I'm okay with it.
I guess I am too, but
that's who I am.
Like, I didn't feel like last night was our grumpiest.
No, gosh, couldn't possibly be. I would be shocked if that was the case. But
tell me what's know for in on vests on the uniform. Cleveland Indians have a vest style.
I'm not a big fan of the vest. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a fan of the vest.
It's basically like the vest, and you got a t-shirt on underneath.
The coach that took over my team
went to the vest.
They went, and he found like some old uniforms from the team, and they were vests, and he went to the vest. He busted out the vests, and I it's just not the look that I wanted. I never put those in the rotation. I'll say that. Yeah. So
I'm not big on the vest either.
Yeah. I am also not a big fan of the t-shirt. I'm more of a fan of the button up. I will say that
for sure.
But we did have, I did get the throwback T-shirt, like the old Stanford, like it says Stanford in like script. They had those, and so I did purchase those, like in my last year, and I really did dig those. Here, I'll show you. Here we go. Let's see if we can get this up here. So there's an example of our jerseys, our alternates. And that's me.
Those are
with
good
the
looking.
Pants up.
It's good looking.
The pants up.
It's kind of a Milwaukee Brewers look you got going there.
We were very much a Milwaukee Brewer because we had the same colors, and so we had a blue top that was very similar to the Brewers.
Good hat.
I purposely made the hat like the Brewers. I was a big fan of that. So, but yes, I'm pants up. But that was a T-shirt, so I did break my rule on that one. All of our other ones were button up, but I took pride in how we looked, Sean. I took pride. We may not have played very well.
I did too.
But we look good. Dang it.
We look good, even if we didn't always play good.
We look good. Darn it.
We gotta set some kind of foundation, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, hit that like button before you go, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Have a great weekend. If we don't see you tomorrow, that means you, Dario. We'll talk to you later on IB Nation Sports Talk.